joining me today. I am going to be interviewing Gordon Downs. He is a local San Diego comedian with a rich history in comedy throughout LA and writing and music journalism and for roast battles and just for a whole lot of stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to get him online here. So I am on today. And also there's rumors of a new comedy club getting started in 2023. So really excited to chat with him about that. Hi, Gordon. Thanks
Hi,
for
Vanessa.
me. How are you?
I am doing okay right now.
All right. So I was just giving you a brief intro. Basically, you've done, dude, like the more that I dug into your history, the more I was like, what has this guy not done? So you're a writer for Roast Battle. You're a music journalist. You're working on a documentary for American Dad Merch. You're a comedian. I've seen you at the Comedy Store here in La Jolla. You were running the open mic at Rabbit Hole, which unfortunately just closed down, the mic. You were also, and this is really how I got more interested in who you are as a person. You taught comedy classes at American Comedy Company Club, ACC. Many of your students gave glowing reviews. And then, yeah, the rumors of the new comedy club in 2023. So where should we get started? How long have you been doing comedy?
I started in 2005, Labor Day weekend at the Comedy Store in La Jolla.
Oh, nice. So are you from San Diego originally?
No. Originally, I'm from the Imperial Valley, just, I guess, southeast of here, El Centro 8 East, if you know that freeway. So that's where I went to high school. But I've lived in San Diego since like 98.
Okay, cool. So then you were a doorman at the Comedy Store, then you started doing comedy, or how did that go?
I started on the open mic Labor Day weekend, and oddly enough, Mitzi Shore was in the crowd that night, and I was the last person to go up on the open mic, my first time. So she got to see me, and I thought I would see her like once a month, every other week. I never saw her again in the 15 years. Oh, there's my cat, by the way.
Oh, hi, cat.
Yeah, he's right there now. Yes, I started there on the open mic, and then after hanging out for about 4 or 5 months consistently, I was offered a door guy position because on a Saturday night that I was hanging out, two employees got fired. So there were 2 jobs that opened up very quickly, and I'm like 5'7" on a good day, and I was the head door guy for a couple of months there.
Nice.
But I was doing comedy already. I was doing comedy on the open mic, hanging out. I wasn't just some vagrant hanging out. Not even a bar, they closed after the last show's over. So no, I had been doing stand-up like 4 or 5 months, and then then the stage time really kind of amplified once you start working there.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, like it's kind of a big deal. First of all, the Comedy Store history in general is kind of a big deal to comedy. And to be able to be in that kind of environment for actually working out your stuff and for having that type of audience is kind of a big deal. The main one is in Hollywood, but also the one here in San Diego in La Jolla is like one of my favorite clubs to go to. And you just really know like the way that the Comedy Store kind of runs, like growing up their comedians is kind of cool. Like I just appreciate seeing that because you see a lot of the comics who are on the open mics actually end up, working there and then actually being on the stage more. So that's pretty cool. And what was your history like with Roast Battle? What were you doing there?
For Roast Battle, I didn't write roast jokes for anyone per se, nor have I ever battled. I'm very sensitive. I'm very thin. I'm very thin-skinned. No, I acted as consigliere to Brian Moses. He's my best friend, and I helped write a lot of his, intros for the battlers and sort of repartee with Jeff. I also wrote a couple of commercial bumps for like the 10-second spots, which was very nice of them to throw me that. But that's basically what I did with Roast Battle.
Nice.
And for the live show that they do Tuesday nights in Hollywood, I used to be the sound engineer behind Coach T, the DJ, former DJ for Roast Battle. And so I would be, if you were in the belly room 2017, 2018, and you saw a little guy behind Coach, that was me.
Nice. What do you think the biggest difference, or do you think it requires like a different set of skills to do like roast battles versus like regular stand-up comedy?
Yes, it's very astute, because there's been a a lot of people have mused that that person's a great roast battler, but a horrible comic. And that, I think I can agree with that, because some people really excel at roast battle, but their stand-up doesn't translate as well. Whereas roast battle, it's very short, it's very specific, it's very mean. I think some people get into stand-up comedy to be mean-spirited. Others are just very talented, gifted writers, but there's a combination between the two, where there's like a malady where you're just very good at that. And there's a roast battle league happening now as well. So that's going to be a lot more, it's going to be growing, I think, in 2023 exponentially. So.
Yeah, I kind of like that you pointed out that some of it just tends to be really mean-spirited. One of my favorite roast battle people is, I don't know that he actually does the Comedy Store one, but Los Digits. I don't know if you heard
Oh,
of
yeah,
him.
no, I think he definitely does. I've seen him do a set. I'm sorry, my cats are going crazy right now. I'm sorry, I just got to put them down.
Your cat wants to be interviewed too. How long have you had your cat?
I got Felipe right before the pandemic.
Oh.
Which is my first son. He's a ragdoll show cat. Yeah, he's worth about, I think, $5,000 or $4,000. And then I got his brother Buddy off the streets of the Imperial Valley in April of last year.
Yeah, I saw while kind of doing a little bit more research on you that you'd like to be involved in like the Humane Society out there. Or you have a link to that.
I try to raise money for any animal like cause that I can, because I can't really volunteer at shelters because it just kind of chokes me up all the time. So if I can do that, and the one in the Imperial Valley, that shelter is severely run down and severely overlooked in terms of funding within the state of California. So, yeah, that's my weak spot is animals, stray animals.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say they're kind of similar to comedians, open micers. But no, I was gonna say that's really cute because it's like such a soft part. And then I hear, coming back to how you're teaching your classes at ACC, something that I heard from comedians is just like Gordon like really knows his shit. Like, and he's just straight to the point. He doesn't really care about your feelings. He's just gonna get down and like tell you the truth. So you're gonna know if you're gonna suck. If you're doing something that you should get better at. And something that struck me about that, because as you know, people in the comedy scene will always kind of talk shit. They always kind of say it with a bit of reverence, like a little bit of like respect. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like I think that I found that I certainly don't hear that often in the comedy scene at all. And so what do you think, what motivates you, or what is your drive for helping other comedians like get better?
I don't know. I guess there were some people that helped me just kind of see some basic stuff that I never saw. One of them is Joe Charles, who used to work at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, who now lives and works on a ranch in Texas and no longer does stand-up, or he does it occasionally. Another one is Skippy Simon, who I learned to keep my jokes short because he used to be Mitzi Shore's driver at the Comedy Store. And then he... I don't want to say assaulted, but he assaulted the GM at the time, and then he got banned. I think he also got banned for bringing his own beer in. He was a character, but he was great at writing very short jokes. And those two guys I name check because they helped me, I guess, just see basic stuff that I couldn't see. But teaching the classes goes back to the Comedy Palace. Bijan Mostafavi and Jesse Egan, they were teaching the class there after the previous professor, house professor and house MC, Zach Miller. He used to teach the class, the stand-up workshop there. Jesse and Bijan took over there at the Palace. This is pre-pandemic. And they asked me to come in and sit in for a couple of classes just for writing purposes. I had just moved back from Los Angeles where I was working on a couple of TV shows like Roast Battle. And I just kind of excelled from there. And I only taught one class at American Comedy Company. It was definitely encouraged by the owner at the time. And while I do have a no kids gloves approach, I don't come out guns blazing automatically. I kind of have to see what people have and what they're bringing to the table. But after a few weeks, I tend to, I don't suffer fools, I guess. And that is a phrase I will use. But it's very kind of people to say that without being mean.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think it's something that I admire because especially when you're looking at something like comedy that does require a level of skill and talents and like progression and like improvement, it doesn't do anyone any favors, especially not an audience, when you're like kind of coddling a comedian, you know, and you're like, no, you're doing great. And it's like, you're actually not, and you're boring the hell out of me as an audience member. And so it's like, I super appreciate when people are just direct and honest. I think that's just important whenever someone's trying to actually get better. And if somebody can't take it, if they can't, okay, like, yeah, your feelings can get hurt, and then like go turn that around and make it into something good, you know? But I feel like if people just can't take that type of input or that feedback, it's probably not the business for them, right? Like it's probably not where they want to.
Something that you just said is something, and it's in a book. I'm dying up here. Mitzi Shore. Again, I love name checking Mitzi because she did these small adjustments, or not small, but they're very, you know, the 2-drink minimum, making the whole room dark. So she really knew her stuff in terms of stand-up. I will say that. But she had a placard, a little thing on her desk that read, "It's a sin to encourage mediocre talent."
Yes.
And I always thought that, you know, that's kind of what the open mic is. And I try to hammer that through to people because it is, if you do stand-up right, even as a hobby or regionally, it's a very fun outlet. It can be very cathartic and it can be very creative. But if you're out there doing it wrong, just cluttering up the scene and cluttering up the mics, you're not doing anyone any good, especially if you're running a mic. You're just going to piss off the people running the mic. But I don't know. I guess, and it's nice to see people start off and then mature within the scene. But I try to hammer it home. It's like this class is not going to do nothing unless you go to the open mics and kind of pay your dues and test your mettle, because that's really how you make it in this industry. I mean, very few people, well, I take that back. TikTok has made it very accessible for people to become headliners very quickly. And I can't knock that, you know what I mean? But the real way to become a stand-up is the traditional way, which is pay your dues on the open mic, eat shit, and get sick of the taste of shit, and then, you know, become good at it. So meet your peers, and then surpass them.
And I think that that's something pretty interesting that you just touched on about like internet and like TikTok. So you got into comedy in like 2005. So like I'm like MySpace was a thing around that time.
MySpace comedy. Do you remember that?
No.
You know how MySpace had like a music section, MySpace Music?
Yeah, I do remember that.
They had a MySpace comedy section, which was like to find, you know, like Dane Cook.
Oh, how funny. I didn't know that.
Or oddly enough, Steve Byrne, he won the first MySpace comedy contest in, I think, 2006, 2007. He won like $25,000, $50,000, maybe more, and it helped him get his first special. But Steve Byrne's a great, yeah. So yeah, MySpace comedy was very prevalent when I came out.
So do you think that TikTok is that for comedy now?
No, it's much more, because no one on MySpace comedy was getting millions of dollars in endorsements. I think the technology has gone so far beyond, and the amount of people, like people who were babies in 2005 are now, you know, 15, 16, they're consumers with their own mobile devices, perhaps 2 mobile devices. So it's definitely like that, but it's like that amplified maybe 5 or 10 times more, I would say.
Yeah. So I feel like there is this healthy medium between like, yeah, paying your dues, hitting the open mics, and like getting better. Because you have, I would have to imagine that you would have to get comfortable in front of an audience. You have to get comfortable, you know, bombing or doing really well. And somehow also, I think the thing about the internet and like apps and stuff is like you kind of get more exposure, like you're more readily available for different audiences. A lot of the pushback that I get from comedians when I'm reaching out to people for clips or something are like, I just don't want to put all my material out there. I just don't want all my, and I'm like, it's one 1 minute clip. Like, I just want people to see you, you know, but I know it's still like a different medium. It's a different vehicle to get comedy out there. But I feel like there's still this resistance in comedy to the use of internet in their comedy. And it's like, I'm not saying go full on like, you know, TikTok superstar, but what do you think about that?
I do. Well, I don't. I'm a very old school kind of guy, so I don't have a lot of clips online, and that's just because I'm lazy. I'm organically lazy, but I probably should, you know. But I think for some comics, they don't want to put stuff that maybe isn't ready yet. It's like not cooked all the way. And then other comics, just there's fear of theft, you know. Someone in Kansas City could take the essence of your bit and then turn it into some Kansas City barbecue bit that is basically your bit from the West Coast, you know, things like that. I don't really know, you know, I tweet, I don't have that many videos online. Honestly, I don't have that many videos online, probably because I don't really like carrying shit, you know?
Yeah.
I do record my sets. I kind of stopped during the pandemic. So I should probably start doing that again. But audio, I think, is more valuable for writing purposes. For filming, you have the gem of a heckler throwing a beer at you or some sort of riff happening in the middle of it. But yeah, I'm not going to carry a backpack.
Yeah. All right. And that makes sense. Going back to the open mic, was Rabbit Hole one of the things that was that one of the first times running a mic, or do you run those often? What inspired you to do that?
I think I had a couple of rooms. Well, I had definitely one room at the Till 2 Club, which we spoke about.
Oh my gosh. I think I told you, I drive by that place all the time. I'm like, I want to do comedy there.
It's a different ownership now. And we had a stage where it was outside and you could legally smoke back there. It was like one of the only stages where you could smoke and do stand-up comedy in San Diego. But when the ownership changed, I think before then the ownership changed, we stopped doing shows there. But I was doing a book show there in 2012, and we had an open mic there on Saturday, which Ryan Hicks used to run, and Jimmy Wolpert, God rest his soul, named after the Gold Room was named after him, and a couple other guys. I think Jimmy Calloway helped, and a couple other people. I'm not really sure. Stephen Gabor. I'm just naming names now, but. This Rabbit Hole was the first mic that I had to produce from start to finish. I used to be the host of the original ACC open mic in 2012. And then I've hosted at the Comedy Store before back in the day and whatnot. But this was my first time producing a show that is like just a long ass open mic. But I tried to treat it more like a show than an open mic. So. But yes, that was my first open mic, I guess, is the long-winded version of that.
Well, and it's interesting because I don't know that people know when they start something like that, like it really has an impact on the community as a whole, you know? And so like a lot of the newer comics, like brand new comics that I know that just gotten started in comedy this year, like that was their safe haven. Like that's where they went to like really practice. And, it was cool because some of the other mics, like the Comedy Store, you know, they only draw 18 names, and so if you don't get it, you don't get it. ACC, that could be kind of an intimidating room for people. Also, kind of difficult because they do a raffle draw.
It's a bit of a wink raffle draw. You know what I mean? It's like wink, depending on.
And then there's Madhouse that closed down their mic on Tuesdays, but they just reopened that. And I'm kind of encouraging the newer comics to try signing up for that. But even then, if you're newer, you get put up like pretty late, like sometimes past midnight. So, you know, people were going to Rabbit Hole, and even then they would stay to like past midnight sometimes. I think you guys went past midnight. Yeah. I've gone a couple of times, and it's fun because it really is just for like comedians went to like have a good time. And so when it closed down, everyone was so sad. They're just like, it was so sad. I was like, I got a bunch of DMs like, where else can I go? And I'm just like, okay, here, like trying to send them, but it's not the same, you know? So it's just interesting. What do you think about because it was only open for a short time, it feels like.
It was 7 months, and thank you for letting me know that. I do feel there was something sad about it. That's why I put the James Taylor Fire and Rain on the song, since it was I could with just one image. You can put a song apparently on Instagram. So
yeah,
it was only 7 months. The reason I got for it shutting down was that our last 2 shows had poor attendance, and that it was getting cold, and that people were not going to come out to the cold. And to my defense, I was not going to argue with the manager because he was right. But also on the flip side, I don't think a lot of people know this because we don't air our laundry during while the show was being produced. We had to cancel 3 of our last 5 shows. I think most people knew that because of the Padres. And then we also had, the A-frame sandwich sign outside, which Randy Varbs graciously painted with chalk to kind of bring people in that are bar hopping along Adams. And that was erased, I want to say for no reason. They said that they were going to have their in-house person redo it, so it looked nicer. But that in-house person never did it. And what I found out was that in-house chalk person was fired. So they said we had low attendance, but we were forced to cancel 3 of our 5 shows. They took away our outdoor marketing. They took our name off the marquee. They never gave us the indoor advertising spots, like in the urinals and the bathrooms, for 7 months. And I thought we had a good turnout each week. So I'm not sure what it was, but we'll see if it comes back in the spring. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that was probably my one kind of gripe about it. I mean, I was telling a comedian last night that I drove down after I went to Mic Drop, and they drove down to Madhouse, and it got cold, and I just didn't even want to walk the block to get to Madhouse. So I was like, I'm just gonna go home. But like that is the thing about like Rabbit Hole, because it was a beautiful outdoor area for like the spring and summer, because it's outdoors. It's this really cool layout, the seating and everything. They had like little fire pits and stuff, but it's just like I'm freezing all the time. So I was like, I don't know. But it was a really cool setup. I hope that they do bring it back. I'm going to tag them on this. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not my decision. So
yeah,
it'd be great. I do have my eyes set on a room in 2023, potentially at a comic book shop. I did talk to the owner, and he's like, come back in 2023 when we can take these masks off. And I was like, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Nice. Cool. I love that, by the way. I love that when there's like shows or even mics at these like non-comedy related places. Like there's one at Red Brontosaurus Records that I like to go to. Like that's a pretty cool spot. And I think that when people produce shows at places outside of clubs, it really makes it more accessible to the general population, because a lot of people will go to a record store, but maybe they don't go to like a comedy club. Like they don't think that it's their place to like go to see a show or something, or bars and stuff. A lot of people
It's that great tradition of in-store performances, like having a band come to a record store. It's much easier to have several comedians perform than a 3-piece band, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool. And so I did want to go back to talking about, can we talk about American Dad merch in that document?
Sure, yeah. I mean, definitely. That's my big, that is the bigger project, I would say, that's coming up for me, so.
I don't know that I would agree with that. No, yeah, let's talk about it. So I know that American Dad merch, you told me like briefly, like just kind of in passing about you tell me about the documentary.
Well, it started out with an Instagram page to document all the different merchandise there is for the TV show American Dad, which not a lot of people know about, apparently, I'm finding out. Because they're really, what I've discovered very easily is that there is no official merchandise for American Dad. There's like maybe a handful of things. But in terms of like official merchandise, what really outnumbers the stuff available to the public is like the items that they make for the staff, like gifts to give to like their staff of like 100 or whatever, 60. I don't know how many people on staff. Then I find a lot of these items on eBay or private sellers. It's been very interesting. I originally started this page at American Dad Merch on Instagram to sell bootleg American Dad t-shirts to the fans, because there really isn't anything out there. But the more research I did, the more I realized I am not a bootlegger. I have a background in journalism. That used to be my thing. So I was like, why don't I just turn this into a book? And then I was like, this is actually more of a story, because after running this page since July 4th, I have almost 300 posts and almost 800 followers, which is very small, but it's a very interesting crew of people. So it's really a documentary about trying to find the different merch that's out there, which is, honestly, I have it all on my TV right here. There isn't much out there, but it's about interviewing fans of the show. And I'm going to get tested for autism, because apparently adults with autism love American Dad. So that's going to be an interesting journey. And I'm trying to, I'm going to start a Kickstarter to raise funds for this, because I do have to travel all over the country to do these interviews. But I only think I need about maybe $20,000, I think. So anything that goes beyond that, Kickstarter wise, if I can, I'm donating to the Imperial Valley Humane Society.
Oh, nice. Very cool. I love that. Yeah, I know that, and I had reached out to you because I had wanted to do some documentary type thing on the comedy scene here in San Diego. And you just sort of like a wealth of information. You ended up giving me all this other information. And I was just like, that is really cool. When we started talking about this, and I just thought it was really interesting, because we don't really know like a whole lot like behind the scenes. I mean, this is like a show that, you know, a lot of people used to watch, and you don't really put a lot of thought into stuff like that. But then like the merch, like, why isn't it available? Why is it so difficult to find? But you always kind of find this, like, you'll always find a story behind that. And I think that's obviously the journalist in you, like looking for it and kind of making it available. So that's pretty cool. And I still need your help on the comedy documentary in the future, by the way. And so one of the last things that I did want, and when are you looking to work on that? Just depending on when you get the funds and are able to.
I'm going to talk with Raul. He is my director of photography. Raul Zambrano, comedian / videographer.
Nice.
If anyone needs work, you should use him. He's great. I do need to talk to him hopefully this week. He's moving residences as we speak. I hope he doesn't mind me revealing that. But I don't think it'll take long. We've already shot some footage at a couple of toy fairs, like in Chula Vista, and then we filmed stuff like at Target. So we have enough footage really to film a Kickstarter video and kind of give the whole spiel that I just gave right now, but condensed into like 60 seconds. So I hope to announce it on January 1st, if not sometime in early January.
Nice. Cool. That's exciting. Look forward to seeing that. And then you also have something else coming out next year. You posted something about Bringers Comedy Club, and I was like, is this serious? Like, are you for real? And you're like, it's as real as the devil or something. And I was like, well, I don't really know about the devil either. So
That brings me to a quote. If you've seen Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, when Eddie Murphy, when he's being interviewed by Jerry is interviewing Eddie Murphy, he's talking about how Sammy Davis Jr. once kind of tried to confide in him that he was a Satanist. And he was like, Satan's just as powerful as God. And Eddie Murphy was like, what the hell? This was like 1985, he was very young, So that's why I said that. It's like, if you believe in God, you have to believe in Satan. It's an old graphic that my friend John Shefsky, a.k.a. John Tomaszewski, he's a comedian, now also does real estate in Los Angeles. If you need a house, hit him up in the LA area. He did that graphic. And, I shouldn't have shared too much, but yes, we have to go to the bank and then to the lawyer and then to another lawyer. But yes, that should be it. It's in the old Soup Plantation restaurant off Mission Gorge. And If anyone wants to check it out, it's 6171 Mission Gorge Road. It's actually the very first soup plantation that there ever was. So it's the original soup plantation location.
I have to say, San Diegans love their soup plantation. I don't know.
It's from San Diego. That's kind of,
Yeah.
it's based out of here, yeah.
I know. I just moved to San Diego like 7 years ago, but I remember it's just like everyone wanted to meet at Soup Plantation all the time. That was like, okay. And then when they all closed down, everyone was so sad. And so when your post came up, I was talking to someone about it, and I was like, oh, I think you mentioned it's going to be at the Soup Plantation location. And like everyone like automatically knows where that location is. I'm like, okay, I had to Google it. I know that it's next to this really good like vegan Thai restaurant that I like to go to. It's like Purple Mint or something.
That's right. Yeah. So I know that parking lot's going to be very problematic.
Yeah, it can get problematic for sure. That's true. But there's kind of street parking around there in a way. But so yeah, it's kind of oops. So what do you kind of see for that? Like, is there anything that you're looking to do differently from how other clubs are kind of running their thing?
Definitely no censorship. If anyone wants to talk about soup plantation, they can talk about soup plantation.
I know what you're referencing there.
It's inside baseball. So no, not really. I mean, we still got to get the liquor license. I mean, I really jumped the gun posting that graphic, but you know what? Do you want to live forever? You know what I mean? You never know when you got to play your hand like it's your last day every time. So nothing much really. Probably just try to have open mic on a Sunday, since that seems to be the dead day for club mics. But again, getting ahead of myself. But go by 6171 Mission Gorge Road. Write some graffiti on the windows. Let me know you came by.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm so glad that you mentioned that too, because I have a open mic calendar, and it's always Sundays that are just really lacking an open mic night. And it's like
the comedy store in La Jolla used to have theirs on Sunday. And I love that because it was Sunday, 7 to 8, and then it was the best of show afterwards. So most of the comics, or at least the good ones from the open mic, a lot of them would leave, but the good ones would hang out and sort of pay their dues. If you missed your open mic spot, you might be able to go up at the end of best of for a couple of minutes. It was a really kind of organic night where it was like buckshot seating, you know what I mean? Everyone was scattered out. If there was 24 people, they were all over the room. And during football season, we'd get a lot of drunk Charger fans that were coming in after losses. That's back in the day. So
that's funny. Yeah, Sundays are always good. Linda is saying early mics, please, for mamas. I do like the early mics too. Sometimes I went to Mic Drop last night, and theirs starts at 10, and it's on a Saturday, so that's not so bad. But sometimes, like during the week, especially, it's like, good Lord, like I need to sleep. I'm exhausted.
The later the mic, or the later the show, the later the set, I think there's more a chance for mischief, or just mischief in the air. You know what I mean? So I can understand that, but also, yeah, what do you want to come in? Degenerates, and drug addicts.
Yeah, everyone there is definitely on something to stay up for sure. So yeah, like the earlier, I feel like there was one good open mic on a Sunday, and it didn't work out for some reason. I think it was like at a bar. I can't remember. But yeah, that would be cool to happen on a Sunday. It feels like you've worked at a variety of comedy clubs at this point. Is there anything like obvious that you're like, this is definitely something that works, so I want to incorporate once this gets going?
I'll probably definitely pay my employees from the beginning. That's something. Yeah. That's something. I was actually the first Madhouse employee. I don't think Robert will ever admit that, but I remember the first show we had, and the very next morning it was just me and him there. Me vacuuming up the fried rice and answering phones while he went to go get, money, cash for that night's show. So yeah, I have worked at a lot of clubs, and I don't know, I'll probably get someone who doesn't drink or smoke weed to be like the talent coordinator or manager, because that seems to be a very strong thread. So wink. You know what I mean? So I think that's an important thing. Putting someone in charge, like Ryan at the Comedy Store, who I've known for 17 years. He drinks, but he doesn't drink at work. And if he does, I don't know it. You know what I mean? And he runs that ship very smoothly. And for as much as I may have resented him in the past, he's a great comedy club manager. So he lets the comics run that club to a certain extent. And that's really, what you need.
Yes. So I love that you brought up Ryan, because I always hear about him and I have never seen him. And all the comedians are like, you've seen him. You've been here enough times. You've likely seen him. I'm like, can you describe him to me? And they're just like, like there's no, like, I'm like, okay, whatever. He's just this mystery person. I'm kind of like happy not knowing. I don't know. He just kind of blends in, I guess.
That really is what you want in someone who's in charge of everything, literally. You don't want them to be, at least for me, that's my preference. You don't want a personality. You don't want a flamboyant figure. Not that there's anything wrong with flamboyance, but I think for at least a comedy club, where it's just basically an adult clubhouse, you need someone who can reel it in and who can make those big decisions and who can have a clear head all the time, So it's great that you don't see him or notice him. But yeah, he's always hanging out there. He's that one guy. He's that white guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how he is, basically. And I think that is really important, because sometimes when people make it more about them than they make it about the actual, talent on the stage, like that's again when the comedy just kind of gets bad again, because it's just like you're just putting anyone up there for the sake of putting them up there because they're your friend or because, they are your hookup for Coke or whatever. So it's just like, that doesn't really work out, then the audiences are suffering. And trust me, as an audience member, I can tell, because I'm just like, why does this person keep getting booked? Like, I hate watching them. I just hate it. And I'll just like have to leave the room sometimes. I'm just like, they're not funny. Like in any shape or form. Like sometimes I'll watch comedians and I know that they're not my sense of humor, but I could still appreciate their jokes, I can see where they're going with it. But sometimes I'm just like, you guys are not funny. How do you keep getting booked? It's such a headache.
I will say this. When I do talk to young comics, open micers, I tell them, you have to do the open mic because the open mic will weed out the weak people. You know what I mean? If you don't want to stay till midnight to do your 5 minutes or 3 minutes, then maybe you don't want it that bad. You kind of have to do that a few dozen times for the door guys to get to know you, for the host to get to know you. You're not just some tourist that's bored at midnight on a Sunday or whatever. So you do have to pay your dues. And I tell everyone, the open mic will weed you out. If you're not meant to do this, or if you don't have it in your constitution to do this, the open mic will weed you out. And then the people that are booked on like weekends and shit like that, they've made it through the open mic, but there's still this other side of the open mic where it's just this open-ended, money trench, so to speak. But it can be very creative and thriving, but can also be very corrupt and thriving. So
yeah, it can be. So just to kind of end it, I guess we'll be wrapping this up here pretty shortly. What are you doing with your comedy now? I see you primarily on the Comedy Store when I catch you there. Are you still like routinely writing? I know when you have so many projects going on, I can't imagine that's your part. I don't know. You tell me. What are you doing?
I am very lazy. I'll say that. Like I do have little Post-it notes of stuff, but most of my attention is going into this American Dad merchandise documentary. That's kind of, I don't want to say bread and butter, but it's definitely new to me. I was doing a lot of stand-up during the pandemic at the ACC. I definitely got COVID there, hosting for Tim Dillon one weekend.
Oh.
I believe his buddy Jack gave it to me, or Tim. Very cool guys, but we all got COVID that weekend. I think even Stephen Gabor got COVID that weekend. To name check Stephen twice.
I love Stephen. Yeah.
So do I. So, but I'm primarily at the Comedy Store because once you get your spots there and you stay in Mike Vinn's good graces, you should be all right to get a few spots to work out stuff. And I do a lot of crowd work, which sometimes backfires especially if you do crowd work on your ex-girlfriend's birthday, and she doesn't heart the Venmo that you sent her. You know, for the most part, yes, it's just a Comedy Store. I'm not writing as much. I never really liked doing a long set. Bijan can testify to that. When he used to book the Comedy Palace, the main room, he's like, you got to do like 20 minutes, man. I was like, I hate being up there that long. I really do. I mean, even if I'm cooking, my sweet spot is 15 to 20 minutes. And I guess, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like being up there that long. It was never my intention to be a headliner, I guess. I remember people have asked me to headline, and I was like, no. So, if it's a 30-minute headlining spot, I'll do it if the price is right. But I really just enjoy doing stand-up and writing. So that's kind of why I got into it, to be a writer. But you can primarily see me at the Comedy Store doing very tired crowd work with some new untested material. So I'll be there on Tuesdays. That's where my new Tuesdays are going to be, to see how many spots I get. I don't know yet. But my Tuesdays will be at the Comedy Store, open mic, and then best of afterwards.
Nice. Cool. That's great. Yeah. So definitely check out Gordon there for his stand-up comedy. Keep an eye out for his American Dad merch documentary. Then we got the Bringers Comedy Club coming out next year sometime. We don't really know. Yeah. Hopefully. I can't even imagine. That's like my dream, honestly, would be to open a comedy club. But if I really think about all of the like details that are required to do that, I'm just like overwhelmed by the thought of it. But I like the idea of running that, because then you're just like, that's the fun part, right? But that's like the very last part of everything getting to that point. Even just, you mentioned the liquor license earlier, and I was like, yeah, that's all those little details.
Yeah.
But that's exciting for another, and that would be like the 7th comedy club here in San Diego. I don't know that any other city. How many? So
New York City, to a certain degree, Los Angeles, but San Diego is the boom town for comedy, and yeah, there's lots of stage time.
Yeah, lots of stage time, and I don't know that comedians know just how lucky they are to be able to have, like, try going up to LA and getting stage time. Like that's kind of a nightmare. So people who, comedians, if you're watching this and now or in the future, just really get out there, and you're kind of spoiled with the opportunity you have to practice your stuff and your material and get better. Like, I don't think that there's any excuse for there to be a bad San Diego comedian, honestly. Like, you have so much opportunity, unless you just need to quit. But
that's a whole other episode right there.
Yeah, seriously. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about you or the stuff that you have coming up in the future, Gordon?
No, I mean, I just definitely like and subscribe to this page. It's great what you're doing, and definitely try to share my Kickstarter. Anyone that's watching this, I'm trying to raise money for the film, but also for the stray animals of the Imperial Valley. That's really my passion project. Anyone who shares the Kickstarter will get an extra 2 minutes on the open mic at Bringers.
Ooh, check that out. All right. Well, I'll be sure to post that link. And if there's anything else, you guys please like and follow him, and also like and follow this page. Thank you so much, Gordon, for your time. Super appreciate you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you. Bye.